Topology is the connection arrangement of nodes on a computer network. Now you've probably just heard that and thinking, what on earth are you on about? So in plain English, a topology is how different devices are connected together within a computer network. Now I mentioned the word node. Sometimes we use node to mean the devices that are within a network. And can you think of the names of any network devices? Hopefully you can. Switch, router, desktop computer, workstation, laptop, server, printer. All these would be known as nodes. So there's an awful joke here. Why did the IT trainee consider themselves to be an expert in choosing jumpers? Because the trainee considered themselves an expert in topology. I know, that's just awful. The two types of topologies that we need to be able to describe are star and mesh. So let's look at this star topology. So in a star topology, we have a central node, which is usually a switch, and then we can connect devices to that switch. So they could be workstations and servers and printers, etc. So this is what you would find inside most buildings. This is typically how a network would look if it were part of a LAN, for example. Can you remember what LAN stands for? Local Area Network. So what are the benefits and drawbacks of this particular topology? Well, it's really easy to add nodes because all we need to do is just plug them into the switch. And likewise, it's easy to remove them as well if we need to. We just disconnect them from the switch. If one of these workstations was to stop working, or the connection between a workstation and a switch stopped working, then it's only going to affect that one particular workstation. Now, of course, if it was a server that stopped working, and that's not backed up anywhere, then it would stop us from being able to access it. And of course, if the main switch in the middle, this is really the main point, if the main switch in the middle happened to stop working, which they do from time to time, then of course anything connected to that switch would stop working completely. But this is a kind of setup, as I said before, that you would find in most networks, most local area networks. One point to note is that the central node is not a server. So sometimes you see images where people put a server in the middle. If you see that, that's incorrect. So most commonly you'd find a switch that is in the middle. What about a mesh topology? Awful joke alert. The last time I tried to explain this, I got into a bit of a mesh. Yeah, I know, dreadful, sorry. So with a mesh topology, every device in a mesh is connected to another device. And that's what we would call a full mesh. So you might possibly find this in a Wi-Fi type setup, where it's possible that if one Wi-Fi connection stops working, you can make use of a different one. So the obvious benefit here is that there's a huge amount of resilience. If one connection happens to fail, then we can just simply use another one. Whereas with a star, if your connection fails for whatever reason, then that's it. That particular workstation is out of action. But with a mesh, if we've got multiple connections between devices, if one connection fails, hey, just use another one. Now, sometimes you might see what's called a partial mesh. So that's when not all devices are connected to every other device. And that's what's called a partial mesh. So drawbacks to this, they can be more expensive to set up because you need more connections, obviously. But the benefit is that there's a lot more resilience in the network. If one connection fails, you can just use another one. And if you look on my website, you'll find a few more points here, but I've covered the main points that you need to be aware of. There's also a video, if you search for this one on the web, Parallel Wireless Rural Solution. That just illustrates the idea of a mesh type network and how it provides resilience. So hopefully you can tell me what's meant by a topology. Can you do that? So you should have said something like the arrangement of devices, or you might have used the word nodes, which is fine, on a computer network. And you should be able to describe a star topology and a mesh topology and discuss some of the benefits and drawbacks of each. And that concludes topologies.